Hello everyone, and welcome back to another day in the life of a counselor vlog. I'm so glad that you're here. So today was actually a stressful day for me at work, and I've had some time to just relax for a bit. The first thing that I do when I get home from work on commute days is change out of my work clothes and into a comfortable t-shirt. It's just the way that I let myself know that we are hanging up the therapist hat and disconnecting so I can be present in the here and now and not in what's going on at work or any worries that I have or anything like that. And I wanted to bring that up because I have been getting questions about how I disconnect from work and how I don't bring that home, and the reality is that I had to learn it the hard way, and I so hope and wish that so many of you out there don't have to learn it the hard way. I had to learn it by experiencing burnout. It was one of the worst times in my life. I've talked about it in previous videos. So I really take my self-care very seriously, and part of that self-care is also saying no to things that I know are going to disrupt my peace or going to be too much for me to handle and are just gonna tip me over. So there's big things like that when it comes to making decisions and learning how to say yes to things that are going to be good for us and no to things that aren't, having those healthy boundaries in place. But there's also really simple and practical things like changing out of work clothes into a t-shirt and doing an enjoyable activity that just allows us to be present and just, you know, be. And real talk moment, work has actually been slower than usual for me right now, so it's giving me extra time to be able to film some videos, and I'm really excited about that. I like to make use of my time, even if in one area things may be going a little bit slower. I like to be able to use that time for other things. So usually if you don't see me post for a while, it's because things get a little bit busier, and then when I do, it's because some of that time has freed up. And I also just want to say thank you so much to those of you who have signed up for my consultations. Working with you all has been so fulfilling, and I'm just so grateful to be able to be a part of your journey as counselors in training as well. It's just so exciting for me, and thank you so much for trusting me to come along that journey with you too. So the plan for tonight, since I have had some time to rest for a little bit, is I want to clean up my desk area because she is a mess right now and she really needs to be cleaned up. So we're gonna go ahead and do that together. I also need to print out some fresh intakes. I really like being stocked up on those so that way I don't run into a situation where I don't have any on hand. So we're just gonna have a nice little relaxing moment of doing that. I'm gonna go ahead and play a movie in the background and we can get to doing all of that. And then we can go ahead and end this vlog with me talking about one of the recommendations that you all left in my community tab. And it was talking about imposter syndrome, treatment planning. Before you know it, you blink and it's just like really messy. That's at the point where I am right now. So let's go ahead and clean, get organized, because a nice clean space makes me feel really good. Hey, so as you can see, we have a whole stack of things here, and there's just things all over. A hot mess express going on, but I did want to show you all, I did finally get a new laptop stand, so that's really exciting. I feel like my little setup is gradually getting to where I want it to be. So let's go ahead and just start off here. I'm gonna put on a movie, and then I'm also just going to play some nice relaxing music for you all while I get to cleaning. early at 2 in the morning. You ate with something European. Oh, cricket maybe. Cricket? Oh my god, it's him. I'm gonna see about this cricket. I'll be right back. Hello everyone, good morning. It is the next day. I feel so much better after having a nice restful sleep. So I am logging on to my community post and I'm gonna go ahead and answer the questions on there. So the first one says, do you get imposter syndrome? Do you feel confident as a counselor? How do you feel being a new counselor? And I feel like sharing a topic like this is very vulnerable, especially online, right? Where anyone can click, watch, and see. But I feel like it's so important to talk about these things and to normalize them. So yes, I have struggled with imposter syndrome since I started undergrad. And there's so many factors that play a huge role in this when it comes to me self-doubting or anyone else doubting their abilities. And I specifically want to gear this toward POC or minority specifically first, because anyone can struggle with imposter syndrome, but especially for those communities, for my community, it is very prevalent and more likely to happen because the academic institutions that we're walking into are not made for us. They're truly not. So when we're able to do this, we're honestly breaking through a system that was not created to help us succeed. And I loved it because I took courses in my university that really helped me understand that too. And then of course doing my own research aside from that. And that's one of the main factors why it's completely normal for me or for anyone who looks like me or any other POC to enter this academic setting and begin to question if they're good enough for it or if they're going to be able to see it through. And now fast forwarding to being a new clinician, of course it's normal for us to have these doubts about, am I going to be a good enough counselor? Am I going to be a good enough therapist? I don't want to let my clients down or disappoint them. What if I'm not what they want, right? All of these thoughts that just come flooding in. I always had people around me doubting me or telling me like, no, you shouldn't do this, you can't make money. And so as much as I wanted the validation and the encouragement of certain family members or the people around me, I very soon realized I wasn't going to get it. I was never going to earn their respect. And I can say this very nonchalantly now, but at the time it cost me a lot of tears. It cost me a lot of time wasted thinking about how I could people please. And I want to share this even if it just helps one person out there. And I don't think it's just one person. I think there's so many of us that struggle with this, especially in our specific career field. And so fast forwarding to now, I would say that my imposter syndrome voice isn't as loud as it was when I was starting undergrad, when I was starting grad school, because I've learned what that voice sounds like. And so I've learned what self-talk and affirmations I need to utilize to help set me up to have better days and to have days where I'm not doubting myself. And I'm so happy that there's more of those days now than there were before, because I feel so much more confident now in what I'm doing while also remaining open to continuing to learn. Those two do not have to be opposing things. Both can be true, that you can gradually feel confident in what you're doing and also still remain teachable. And for example, I learned so much from my supervisor and I'm trying to just soak it all in. And I feel like that's the best thing that anyone can do for someone else, give them encouragement and support. And I personally love my supervisor style because it's always more of a question of, well, what do you want to do about this? How do you think you should handle this? Very much like what we would do in counseling. And I find that so helpful and refreshing because it puts me in the place where I really have to think about why I'm making this decision and thinking through it versus having someone else just make it for me and tell me this is the one way to make the decision. When in reality, in our career field, even though there is a general way to do things according to our code of ethics and all of that jazz, really we're in a career field of gray. We don't really operate in black and white a lot of the times. And for those of you who are starting off in grad school, that's something that you're going to see more and more, especially when you take your ethics courses and things like that. There's just going to be a world of gray opened up to you that I know for me, before entering my undergrad or graduate program, I did not see the world in that way. So I do have a dedicated video on imposter syndrome that I'll go ahead and link up here for you if you want to go ahead and check that out. And I talk about tips on how to deal with it, but a huge one for me has been my self-talk and my affirmations. Because when we are using a lot of negative self-talk, or there's a lot of doubt within the way that we're speaking to ourselves, if we pay attention, it truly works. We end up self-doubting ourselves or putting ourselves down and being unkind to ourselves, and we believe it. And so the same is true in the opposite direction. The more you gradually and consistently, which is the key word, consistently start utilizing positive self-talk, encouraging and kind words toward yourself consistently, the more strengthened that voice will be instead of the negative one. And like anything else in life, it's something that takes time and continual maintenance. I personally like putting affirmations on my phone screen, and it instantly reminds me to just say it out loud. And if you have trouble with this, just create a playlist of really positive and encouraging music and sing along at the top of your lungs when you're driving. And that's just a great way to get started if you don't really like just saying positive affirmations out loud. If anything, us being confident allows others around us to be confident as well. And this proved very true for me during my internships. I was able to interact with other LPC interns at the time, but other LPC-associates. I was able to just see them as they were. They were very open, showing me the good about the work, the hard times. None of us as therapists are going to be perfect, but seeing that genuineness and just how they approach their work allowed me to be confident because they were confident as well. And whenever I voiced that I was feeling imposter syndrome, one of the counselors there would just be like, "Hey, stop that." And maybe to someone else that would be offensive, but in my culture and for me, I felt so seen whenever she would do that. I was like, yes, why am I self-doubting myself? Why am I doing this to myself? And that awareness was huge. So if you need to talk to yourself like that, do it. Do whatever works for you. Okay, and moving on to the last requested topic. How do you prep for the sessions ahead of time? Treatment planning used to take me so much longer. I used to dedicate so much mental space to it because I just wanted to do a good job. But I quickly realized, and then through talking to my supervisor, that that was unnecessary. And just like in grad school, I learned that I had to work smarter and not harder. The same thing applies to work now, where I had to be more strategic and more intentional about my treatment planning. And this is something that is going to be so unique to each of us. So again, any of the topics that I talk about on my videos, take with a grain of salt and use them in whichever way works for you, because this is just my lived experience as an LPC associate, and we're all unique in the way that we do things. So fast forwarding to now, in the way that I feel treatment planning is working well for me is I usually take 30 to 45 minutes to truly just plan out what I want to do in sessions with clients. And I've learned that treatment planning goes a lot more smoothly when I've already taken previous sessions to get to know my client and to build that relationship. The first 2 or 3 sessions, that is my main goal, unless a client comes in telling me that they really just want coping skills and they want to do things as quickly as possible. And that plays a huge part in treatment planning too, for me to just ask my clients, have you been in therapy before? What did you like? What didn't you like? What were some of the things that you felt worked best for you? So I really try to get to know my client as a person. And so when it comes to my approach, it is very much person-centered and multicultural. So personally, as a therapist, I don't try to force my clients to fit into a certain therapeutic technique or any type of exercise that I have planned. It's the opposite for me. I tailor my approach to fit my client's needs. And so, for example, I love incorporating DBT into what I do. And if any of this this is sounding overwhelming for you, believe me, it was very overwhelming for me at a certain point too when I was in grad school, and a lot of my fellow classmates were talking about how they loved CBT and that was their ride or die, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's also why I felt really out of place in grad school too, because a lot of my classmates, that was their ride or die approach. And a lot of times a lot of people would fight you on person-centered, where it's like, well, as therapists we should all be person-centered, so that's not its own thing, when in reality for me it is, because the most important thing for me is the relationship that I establish with my clients and the healing that can come from establishing a good relationship with clients and really getting to know them. So for example, with some of my clients, I know the things that are going to make them feel uncomfortable. I know how far we can get into a session on a certain topic, and I like utilizing what I know to offer my client respect and the room to talk about the things that they really need to process. So for example, for my client who did not like meditation, they let me know that they really enjoyed journaling. So that is something that I incorporate. And instead of fighting with something and trying to force this client to do something that's really not going to be practical for them and that they're not going to enjoy or utilize on a daily basis, I very much prefer to incorporate practicality. And this is something that, again, I learned from my internship side. I cannot rave enough about that experience, getting to see different counselors and how they approach things. So I gather up all of the knowledge that I know about my client, the things that they dislike, the things that they like, and then when I sit down to treatment plan, think about topics that we could talk about in the next session, any questions that I have about something that they mentioned in a previous session that I'd like to really talk about next time or ask them about. And I also think about any activities that I would like to invite them to do, and sometimes we may not even get into the activity that I'd like to go ahead and invite them to do in session. There's other topics that I find to be more important to explore than the activity that I had planned, and that's also why I don't spend so much time treatment planning. I try to just spend 35 to 45 minutes, and that might depend with each client, because there might be something that my client has been wanting to talk about for so long and finally got to, and I don't like interrupting the flow of that. That's something that feels very true to my approach. Some of my sessions involve more talk therapy because that is what some of my adolescents or adults really enjoy. And some sessions involve more mindfulness techniques, actual creative activities utilizing expressive arts, and all of the things that I do utilize are based off of the treatment plan that I first set out and the goals and objectives that we did. Is this exercise or topic aligning with their goals? And honestly, there are some sessions that might not, but it's something that is very important to my client to talk about, and I like making space and room for them to have sessions like that too, because no one can be in a constant state of just learning and self-growth and healing all the time. Okay everyone, so that is all of the time that I have for this video, but I will definitely answer some more questions in my next counselor and training vlog. So if you have any questions or any topic requests, definitely go leave it on my community tab or in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I will see you in the next Keep on Growing video. Bye everyone.